Hello and welcome everybody to another attributed session brought to you by Dreamdata. Today, I'm super excited because I have one of the what should I call you, Kamil? One of at least the best social posters that I follow on X amongst the B2B marketers. Perhaps you're the only one I follow actually on X. But I always seem to end up interacting with the content you post there, Kamil. And the same thing on LinkedIn. I've always really liked how you and 42 carry yourself. Today's session is a bit different than some of the other sessions we do because it's very specific. Normally we talk about bigger go-to-market tactics or like my B2B marketing plays and stuff like that. But I reached out to you because you've been talking lately a bunch about something very specific and not typical B2B, which is YouTube ads.
Yes.
So in short, I'm here to learn and then to ask you questions about your experience with YouTube ads. But before we jump there, there's probably some who's not following you on X, which I recommend. So can you just introduce yourself briefly about who are you and what does 42 do as well?
Yeah, happy to. So my name is Kamil Rextin. I've been in B2B marketing since the early 2008s. So it's been around the block a few times. Started the agency about 6 years ago. We do B2B demand gen, but now demand gen has become a dirty word. So I don't like to use it that much. But essentially, we manage paid media, SEO, and RevOps for B2B companies. And then we also offer creative landing pages as part of that package because we have this belief at 42 that creative and brand drives performance. So we try to balance both. Even though we're a performance agency, we emphasize a lot on creative and brand aspects as well.
Yeah, and I think that's probably maybe just worth double clicking on that just a little bit because I think I saw you the other day writing that you came out of like data science and engineering, and like my approach to being a marketer has also come out of this spreadsheet school. Yeah. But I think both of us have now arrived at a point when you can, back in the let's call them the fairy tale days or honeymoon days of digital marketing, competition was lower. So most of the stuff you ran worked. Though the creative was not necessarily groundbreaking or cutting edge. But now competition today seems
extremely
very
high. Yeah.
Which the more marketplace, the more bidders, the more the price goes up. And then the way to bring that price down is by standing out with creative. But how do you see that development, Kamil, and what are you experiencing both with your own clients?
I came out from engineering. I was in the early growth hacking days when Andrew Chen wrote that essay. I was very numbers driven. I was very like, we have to measure everything. CPCs were like less than $1 back then. It was like CPM was so cheap. Facebook was still running the right-hand rail. Facebook mobile wasn't a big thing. And then slowly, like, it's an auction system. So it just got busier. The internet got busier. Cost of content went down to zero. So everybody can create content now, especially with AI. It's even like less than zero now. So I think you have to be in that consideration phase before somebody even comes into market. And then when they're in market, you have to have distinctive creative to actually attract attention. So Sebastian on my team wrote this really good essay on trust and attention. So marketing's job is to build trust and get attention. If you can't do that, then you're not going to stand a chance. And the busier it gets, I think the more important it becomes. So I think that's why we see a lot of like creative driving performance, because we see that some kind of creative works really well for some kind of businesses, and just for others it doesn't work. So like you really have to emphasize the creative. It's not just the targeting. It's not just the mechanics of the ad platforms. That's becoming more and more automated. Facebook just lets you run broad targeting. It says, I'll find your best customers for you. You don't need to tell me interest stacks or lookalikes or anything like that. So I think we're going back to the pendulum swing of going back towards more brand marketing and more mass, that kind of stuff, versus in the last 10 years, it has been like hyper targeted and like, you know, Facebook and Google and LinkedIn. But I think it's like that's slowly going away.
Yeah, super interesting. If we then maybe just switch over to to YouTube if we step into that world. I think pretty much none, at least non-viewers of this show that will, or listeners of the show that will have not been on YouTube itself. But what could you give like a fly into kind of how the ads world of YouTube looks like? If we start with high level and then we can move more specifically.
Yeah. I think the great thing about YouTube is it's part of the AdWords Google Ads ecosystem. So like a lot of the interface, a lot of the data, a lot of the targeting, a lot of the mechanics are similar to that. I think the reason YouTube gets ignored is because it's not a direct response channel like search traditionally is. But in terms of you can leverage remarketing audiences, you can do all that fun stuff, and we can get into specifics of like how to set up campaigns. And also I think YouTube just has a bigger reach. There's about, I don't know, 3 billion active users or like some insane number of people who watch YouTube every day. And the people who are not on search, not on LinkedIn, potentially not on like it can be somewhat of an incremental channel as well, because you might be reaching a net new audience that you're not really reaching on search because they're not searching for something, or they're not clicking on your ads, or not seeing your ads. And because YouTube is hopefully not that popular yet, the CPMs are low, so the cost per view is less than $1, so it's not that competitive right now. Hopefully it stays that way. But you get a lot of B2C brands, you get a lot of like those coaches and sales, like I get a lot of those ads too, but not a lot of B2B brands. I think Monday.com, Grammarly, and like Monday's everywhere though, so can't really count them. Like ClickUp, Monday, like one of there's like 3 brands that I've seen on YouTube that are B2B-ish, but not so much, like not that many. So I think it's like pretty much a blue ocean opportunity for a lot of B2B brands. I think why YouTube is not a consideration is because there's this impression that you need a really high production value video to run on YouTube. But we've run like this kind of clips where it's like a podcast clip or something, and it works. You get like 30-40% view rates. So I don't think that's about the production value. I think it's about like having the right message, having the right hook, all that fun stuff. Sorry, I'm gonna drink some tea. So
if can we maybe talk? So I always love a new channel and trying to understand how it works. It's the best part of marketing, experimenting with stuff. Is there? So you said Monday.com and Grammarly, and I think maybe you can talk a little bit about. So B2B companies, that's a very broad definition.
yes.
So if there's who are those that particularly should maybe consider YouTube as
That's a good question.
Who is it maybe not for? Because I can maybe guess that when you say Grammarly,
yes,
pretty much any person in a company can enjoy their application. Whereas if you do something hyper specific, maybe it's hard. But what's your thoughts? Kind of
So my initial thought was that if you're more of an SMB PLG type thing, then like you have a broader market to reach, then you can leverage YouTube. But we started experimenting with YouTube for some of more like niche SMB, like general contractors or HVAC technicians, like that, and also enterprise, like call center solutions, or like $1 million deals. And we've seen some success with them. And I'm not going to say they've been this is the channel to be. I think YouTube is part of a mix. Like you can't just run YouTube and expect like magical things will happen. I think you have to run search and LinkedIn and YouTube. Like YouTube is part of that equation. But I think because it's connected into the Google ecosystem, you can create a lot of interesting audiences that are relatively more targeted than you would be if you were a Grammarly or a Monday.com. So an example is we leverage a lot of custom intent audiences, which is telling Google, I want to target people who search these specific terms on Google. And if they show up on YouTube, I want to show them ads. So like instead of bidding on highly competitive search queries, like if you're selling CRM or you're bidding on CRM, you're gonna pay like $500 CPCs. But you can say somebody searching for CRM, I want to show them, Salesforce eats a lot of those. Salesforce drives up the prices so much. but you can show them ads on YouTube. So like that's a way to one circumvent that. And second is you can do anybody who's been to searching for competitors, anybody who's been to competitive audiences, anybody who's currently in market, which can be a bit of a broad category, but they have like enough in market audiences where you can say cloud solutions or enterprise software or like stuff like that. So you
And
can narrow it down from like Grammarly to like people who work in enterprise Fortune 500 companies. Now you can't do like company level targeting, you can't do like that kind of stuff, obviously, but I think there's enough there that it's worth looking at.
yeah, so one of the things I'm finding continuously more annoying with Google search ads is that if you tell them, oh, you can do broad targeting of this keyword, they just interpret it really liberal.
Yes, yes,
What the feeling when you do custom intent and like give that keywords, is it loyal to those keywords?
it's more
Or
phrase match, not
yeah,
not rap. But I think Google in general is moving towards like a lot of Google pushing towards performance max, performance max, performance max. And we've had horrible experiences with performance max because it just doesn't work for B2B. You
yeah,
get a lot of junk, you get a lot of conversions, but they're all spam. But I think Google is slowly moving towards a world where you don't control search queries, you don't control that. You just give them your assets and they just figure out how to run those ads. And I think in that universe, you have to have very tight conversion tracking. You have to have very tight criteria for like how you track down funnel conversions. I think the good thing with YouTube is the broad match. I'm selling red shoes and they match for like red dress or some random shit. That doesn't happen. Like that's good. Yeah, broad match is like, yeah, it's so bad. But the advantage with YouTube is that your surface area is also bigger. So like you can show it on TV, you can show it on mobile, you can show it on tablet. It doesn't really, because you're not expecting people to click on it and convert right away.
that's
So
very,
you can,
very interesting. So I think a key topic then to dive into, and I'm just doing it already now. So you said you've had success, and I bet success is not the same as if you have a search ad, somebody clicks it, it's
yes,
a
yes,
very
yes,
linear
yes.
experience. What's your thinking on what success looks like for a B2B company on YouTube?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so success we define as if we establish a baseline level of conversions and traffic and MQLs and SQLs, and if we add layer on YouTube ads on top, what is the delta of increase between what happens? And then also doing this regression analysis of I run YouTube ads, my conversions go up, direct and organic and everything else. And YouTube ads tend to be that, what do you call that, that tide that lifts all boats, I guess that's the term.
Yeah.
Like when we've run YouTube ads, we've seen a significant increase in direct organic brand, non-branded organic direct, like everything kind of comes up, and there's enough delta in the, bye baby, my son is going to school, my and then so you can't really say they click on the YouTube ad, we captured their Google click ID, and then the cookie captured that ID and first touch or last touch or whatever. It's impossible. Nobody's sitting there clicking on their TVs to go sign up for an enterprise software. But I think if you build enough of those memory connections for people, they will be like, oh, I saw that thing on YouTube, let me go check out what they actually do. And
Mm,
I think it's that can drive a lot of that indirect conversions.
yeah.
So that's how we measure it. And then you can go get more advanced and run like more analysis, but like just like baseline, when you run YouTube ads, two good things happen to your
Yeah. So
others.
it's kind of the metrics are as they are the last month, and then this month we keep all things equal, but then we layer on top.
What is the variable you change? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got it. And I completely get that method. What are the if we then take like step into more leading metric or kind of platform metric?
Yeah.
What are the things you have your attention on once you hit the switch on?
Same things as you would be if you're running like top of funnel ads on LinkedIn or Meta on videos, such as what's my cost per view, what's my view through rate, how much people are skipping. The advantage with YouTube ads is that people can skip before 3 seconds on the true view ads, and then you don't have to pay for it. but you want to see how many people are skipping, how many people are not skipping, how many people, like what percentage is being watched. And then you can also couple that with bumper ads and other ads on the YouTube interface where like your brand just shows up in multiple places. And then you're looking at the cost per view, cost per click. If you have, you don't expect a high click through rate. I think like you just don't. But you can look at cost per click. But mainly, I'm looking at how many people are viewing the ad and what channels they're showing up on, what placements they're showing up on, and then what devices they're showing up on. And that the interesting, so I'll give you a fun example. So we were running YouTube ads for like one of our customers in like the general contractor space, and we saw the channel placements. A lot of them were kids TV channels, and they were like a remarketing audience. So like one of the assumptions I made is like a lot of parents, they have kids watch YouTube from their parents account, they get retargeted through the kid. Like you can learn a lot, you can sort of get a little bit of insights into who your customers are too, based on like where they're watching, what channels they're watching on. So sorry, that digression, but
Would you
basically,
spend time like the tactical thing here? Do you then exclude the children's channels from being where
I
places?
do, yeah, but you don't want to exclude too much because then your reach becomes really really small, especially if your audience size is smaller.
Yeah,
But you would look at like if there's obviously some channels that are not completely, complete junk, then you want to exclude them. Also, you can control the inventory, like you don't want to show up on X-rated or like violent or politically sensitive content or that kind of stuff.
got it. Good. If we switch gears from kind of the metric part of it, and then into kind of the creative part of it, because I think all of us have the very boring product marketing stuff, and then there's other stuff that are more fun and the creative. What are the kind of just based on this experience you guys have at 42, what are the things that work well? It doesn't have to be universally true, but just what you
Yes,
experienced.
we've seen stop motion graphics or like those kind of videos work okay. We've seen talking head videos work okay. We've seen like podcast interview format work okay. Product product videos actually work okay too. We have one customer that has really high production videos. We're trying them out right now. I think they will do better just because they're high production, they hire professional like people to do it. But I think even if you're scrappy, you can like create a small video of like a founder talking about their point of view. I think the key is to make sure it's branded within the first 3 seconds. Like you don't want to start talking without having some kind of a brand impression, let's call it,
Okay.
because otherwise people don't know who you are, and
Yeah.
they might skip it without realizing who you are and what you do. So like you have to capture their attention somehow in the first 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And I think if you take like a lot of B2B companies don't run TV creative, but if you think about YouTube versus TV creative, you can tell that story in a longer period of time because people are not skipping it. So you don't have to like start with a branded thing and then you can start with like a slow pace and sort of build up. But with YouTube, we kind of have to do the opposite because people can skip, they can close a window, they can do whatever, they're more in control. So you have to figure out how to capture their attention in the first 2 seconds, and also
Mhm.
make sure they know that it's coming from you, Grammarly, Dreamdata, 42, whoever that company is running it.
What is the that makes me think kind of what is the purpose of YouTube ads? Because it's I guess it's like another impression or like a reminder of
Yes,
your brand existing, or are you trying to
I think it can be both.
yeah,
I think like Alejandro said, remarketing, like you can run remarketing ads to them and it could be like, hey, you know what? You came to our website a few times. We want you to see what we're about and common objections and stuff. But I think you can also reach new incremental audiences that you don't normally reach on like your source. Like my B2B companies, 90% of the time we run Google Ads and LinkedIn.
yeah,
That's 90% of the mix. I think
yeah,
YouTube is an interesting because it reaches an audience that might not be on LinkedIn or might not be active on LinkedIn that often,
yeah,
might not be searching on Google for whatever you're trying to sell, but they most likely are on YouTube watching something.
Yeah.
And it could be a net new incremental channel, or it could be an additional touch point in that customer journey where you are like popping up.
I would love you to. So I think the retargeting makes sense for anybody listening. Take me down kind of the path of kind of, as you call them, like net new, or like getting in front of like new buyers. What do you need to do to do a successful plater? Because I think all of us wish that we can just have more people that know about us, and then get
Yeah,
them.
and I
Right.
think that's where your in market audiences come into play. So I think with if you're targeting your CRM audiences, like you're uploading them as customer list, or you're doing remarketing, or you're doing search remarketing, like people search for certain things and then show up on YouTube, I think that's where you hit a lot of, maybe there's a higher degree of overlap,
Yeah.
because people might see your ad on search and then they might see your ad on YouTube. I think the custom intent against competitor audiences, you can create your own like category search campaigns, or in market audiences, or even if you want to go a bit more broader than that, you can use affinity audiences. I think those are more people that through their browsing behavioral, through Google's godlike machine learning algorithm, they determine that they're in market, but they might not be the same people that are have the same surface area on LinkedIn or Meta or something. I think it's like I think there's overlap for sure. It's not like if I'm on LinkedIn, I'm not on YouTube. If I'm on YouTube, I'm not on LinkedIn. I think there's a definitely an overlap, but I think the behavior and there's some people who, because we assume B2B, everybody's on LinkedIn all the time because we are on LinkedIn all the time. But the fact is, not everybody's on LinkedIn all the time. Not
Oh,
everybody's on Twitter all the time. Not everybody's on Instagram or Meta all the time. So I
yeah.
think that's like YouTube is an additional, I call it surface area. Like it's another kind of surface to reach people if they're not on those other things. Now,
Yeah.
of course, because these platforms don't share a common ID or person identifier, so you can't really tell. But that's just based on the experiments we run. That's sort of a hypothesis we've developed over
Yeah.
time.
One of the things I really love about running ads on LinkedIn is that I can hand them a list of accounts, and then I know that
Exactly.
these
Yeah.
ads are the people on these accounts. What are
Exactly.
the like the rule of thumb, best practices for targeting on YouTube that you guys apply at 42? Just to repeat the audience for the audience, so it's very clear.
Yeah.
What are like, the typical things you wanna?
Start with remarketing. I think that's the lowest. Just start remarketing audiences, just like you would on display or something. Start there. Create custom audiences based on your search. And so take your converting search queries on like what keywords are converting for you on search, drop them into a custom intent audience or people searching for these queries I want to show my ads to,
Yeah.
and then build up from there. So then you can go into competitor searches. The funny thing is, because YouTube can let you also run ads on specific channels,
Yeah.
you can also run ads every. So I was on some project Asana or somebody's channel watching some tutorial, and I saw an ad for monday.com pop up.
Yeah.
So it was like you, because with specific channels you tend to not like, you don't know the thousands of channels that exist, but like, you can do that as well. But start with remarketing, start with your converting search terms that you can add into YouTube as custom intent, layer on your competitor ones, and then sort of build up from there. I don't think you should start with in market audiences, because I think they can be a little bit too broad for most B2B companies.
Yeah. Cool. What are the if we want to have people, let's do the opposite then. If people, we want to avoid people wasting money and have a bad experience with with YouTube ads, what are the easy things that people can consider and don't do that to kind of to avoid the most obvious beginners mistakes?
Don't use affinity audiences. Don't use Google's recommended settings on like, here's like 5 audiences I think you should add based on your website or something, because I think Google tends to favor more broad reach stuff, and B2B we tend to live in a more narrower focus. And then I think you can start with the skippable video ads as a start. You can expand into the 3-second ads, you can expand into bumper ads. But I think it's easy to just start with like, and then don't expect YouTube to work in isolate. Like you can't just you have to have other stuff running, and YouTube is an additive channel on top. It's not like it's maybe 20% of your media budget or something like that. It's not like you just run YouTube. And I wouldn't say, if you're just starting paid media or demand gen or whatever you want to call it, don't start with YouTube. Start with search, start with LinkedIn, start with those foundational first, and then make your way up to YouTube as you make sure those channels are running and you're getting your value there.
Yeah. So you just mentioned the different formats, the video formats. Or there's a skippable video, bumper ad.
There's bumper ad, skippable video. There's a 3-second non-skippable video. Then there's a recommended video. I think they're part of the bumper inventory.
Yeah.
And then they have something called discovery ads, where it's like YouTube and YouTube on like third-party sites, and they have some. Also turn off like any partner stuff.
Yeah.
You'd want your inventory on YouTube only. You don't want like other stuff.
Yeah.
That
goes across any ad platform.
Programmatics, like, yeah, you go on some recipe site and there's like an ad that like the video pops up. You don't want your ads there.
Yeah. But so there's the skippable ad. Is that the standard format? And then there's a 3-second skippable.
There's a 3-second non-skippable one, and then there's the bumper ad, which shows up like a small banner on the YouTube stuff. There's like the recommended video that shows up on the top.
Yeah. And when is it that there's some, let's call it a little bit of a hack, or when is it that you actually pay for the YouTube ad?
If somebody watches beyond the 3 seconds. So if somebody, that skip video that pops up. So if somebody skips your ad, then you don't have to pay. Good. So you can essentially run free impressions for your brand by just having like a video ad that has some interesting things in the first 3 seconds. And most of us skip the ads anyway. So you don't end up paying for that CPM.
But it's nice, then people still see the brand, and if the
people still see the brand, yeah.
And you stay top of mind with people.
I mean, you can just slap your logo in the 3 seconds, and you can, like a really like 3 seconds, you just have the entire screen full of your logo, and then you're like, okay, they saw my logo at least, and then you can skip, and that's fine. I don't care. I don't recommend doing that, but that's like, it's a fun way to try. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you run any YouTube ads for your 42 agency, or is it mainly on behalf of clients this far?
We've run some. We don't have. We mainly focus on newsletter subscriptions and stuff, newsletter sponsorships and stuff like that. But we run some for around when we attend conferences or we have like some kind of thing going on. Then we do a little bit of YouTube ads, and then we typically. Like I was going to SaaStre's conference 2 years ago, so I specifically ran ads on SaaStre's channel, like HubSpot channel or Salesforce, like so stuff like that.
Oh shit! I just wasted. Fucked up. That was a coffee cup. Sorry.
I hope it was empty.
Semi-empty.
Okay.
I got a little bit excited about what you said there, Kamil, because that's actually really cool. Like SaaStre, for example, if you're targeting software companies, and just the 2 weeks up to that conference, people will be searching for that
content.
Thinking, oh, fuck, that's a good one.
Or like HubSpot, because we do HubSpot implementation work and solution consulting. So like, if there's any HubSpot related channels or HubSpot's own channel, then we can see if we can run ads on them or relate something.
The one thing I struggle a little bit with is that we do something pretty specific at Dreamdata, and then on Google search, you very easily exhaust the impression share.
Yeah.
But you can actually utilize these conferences where it's exactly the right people that are searching for this, and then getting your brand exposed to these people.
Yeah. I also think my friend John Etkin, I don't know if he's listening, but if you are, John, shout out to you. He said something to me like a couple of years ago. He's like, it's sometimes it's like benefits B2B brands to go more broad.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we get so fixated on hitting an executive at XYZ that we forget there's like people around the executive who might be in the sales function and the RevOps function and the manager. Like there's like the more broader you can get your message within that loosely defined area, I think the better it is.
Yeah.
So I think like YouTube can be good for that kind of stuff as well. Like hitting a more broader audience than you would on LinkedIn, for example.
Yeah, I interviewed Professor Byron Sharp
Yes, yes,
in the
yeah,
spring, and he would say exactly that you want to be reaching as many qualified buyers as totally possible for the money that you have
yeah,
available.
yeah, yeah. And there's like increasingly research showing like the first impression is the one that matters the most. So you want to make sure you reach as many net new people as you can versus like hammering the same person again and again and again and again and again. And like you said, with what you guys do, with there's like only 5 players in the ecosystem, maybe 4 players. So like
And then,
there's not so many people actually searching for B2B attribution software. Like they're just
I wish there were more.
yeah. So I think your at Dreamdata, I think your challenge is creating that market in the
Yep,
first place.
you're right.
And I think like you more broad based, like YouTube and like conferences and like that kind of stuff can be like helpful in that regard.
And I think that's like why LinkedIn has been great for us as well, because we know the type of companies that
Yeah,
feels this
yeah,
pain. We know the kind of person, and then our task is to educate them on, hey, there is this pain and there is this solution
yeah,
that you could be catching on to.
yeah, exactly, exactly, yeah,
If let's say we were a 42 customer, and then you say to me, Stefan, YouTube ads are great. Okay, then I say, Kamil, how do I explain to the rest of the organization that I need to allocate budget here? Kind of what is the what is the business case pitch here that for those who listen who want to try it out?
yeah,
How do we build that business case, or what is the
yeah.
argumentation?
That's a good question. I think the business case is it's another top of funnel channel to
Yeah,
reach incremental to drive incremental audience reach. I think it's very hard for me to sit here and say YouTube is gonna be a big revenue driver.
yeah,
I don't know that. But what I do know for sure is you need top of funnel, because if you only focus on bottom of the funnel search or stuff, you're just gonna run out of people pretty quickly.
yeah,
So you have to maintain that top of funnel. And I think YouTube is part of a healthy top of funnel because one, you can do more brand storytelling because video just leads itself to more brand storytelling. Two, I think it's net new audiences. Three, I think it helps with like brand recall and stuff like that. So I think it's like, if I was to put it on the spectrum of performance versus a brand marketing channel versus performance marketing, I think it's more leaning towards the brand marketing channel. But I think that's so important in the mix if you want to actually have a healthy mix of media. Because if you just like you can only hit so many people on Google search before you run out of people who are
There
searching for
are
that.
some companies where the product is so broad that there's just enough Google
Yeah.
search, but
Project management.
for the
Yeah.
rest of us, we still
Yeah.
need to get on the radar of people who don't search.
Yeah. 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 Like project management is a huge category. There's so many thousands of people. So you can spend loads of money on project management related keywords or just on Google search without even expanding into YouTube or out of home or whatever.
Related to this, was it this week I saw you posting about the 95 plus 5 rule?
Oh yeah.
Because I actually, it's a little bit annoying because it makes sense for me to have this very bucketed thinking that
Yeah.
in market, and we covered those, and then
Yeah.
there's the right people, your ICP audience that you then serve ads to. What can you explain that? What was your
Yeah,
point?
that's a good one. I'm still developing that line of thinking, but I think I see so many people on LinkedIn just saying, oh yeah, 95, 5%, blah, blah, blah. And like, you can't convince 95%. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true. Like, I know that's true, but I don't know if that's true. Like, I think markets are dynamic. People's buying behaviors are dynamic. It's not like, and I gave that example of me using this productivity app. It was a latent pain I was feeling. It was not something I was actively like, I was not in market for it, consciously.
Yeah,
But I think they were just like, I came across the ad and I was like, oh, this is interesting because I have this problem, but I haven't looked at solving it. So I think the way people treat it is like this hard definition of you're either in market or you're not in, like yes or no binary, yeah, yes or no thing. I think it's more fluid, it's more gray, where it's not like you're not either in market or out of market. I think you're just like on the spectrum of like, yeah, I want to solve this problem. No, I don't really care about it. So
yeah.
like, I think a lot of people use it as an excuse to just like, or like throw it around as a thing that kind of makes sense, but they don't really like, it doesn't really. And
Yeah.
I was reading this article, I don't know who it was by, I have to dig it up the person, but what he said was really interesting. He said like, the value is not in convincing the in market people to buy your thing, because they're already looking for something and they will most likely buy your thing. The value is and there's no value in trying to convince the people who are never going to buy your thing, or not never going to buy your thing for the next 3 years or whatever, to be like, come buy my thing. The value is in the middle, which like you can call it the middle of the funnel, where they're kind of on the fence. They're like, I kind of want to solve this problem, I kind of don't want to solve this problem. And the magic happens when you convince those people to come into like, not come into market, but like you address their pains.
Mm.
And I think he said something interesting, is like, so what that might mean is like having different offers for those, like having a different level of offer for people who are not really, are on the fence. And it could be like, don't sign up for the demo, but maybe watch this product walkthrough video or something, like have
Yeah.
a softer offer. And I think generally, I think this connected to another thing I've been thinking about is in B2B marketing, we very much think about either you're bottom of the funnel or you're not bottom of the, like we kind of forget about that mid funnel piece.
Yeah.
I think there's value in there. And I think that's like, those are the people who can be convinced to buy your thing, but they're not really looking to, like, I think, and that also connects to like the broad, like reach as many qualified buyers as you can, because you don't know who's in market, who's not in market, who's looking to solve, like
No.
you just don't know.
No.
So you increase your odds by just reaching as many people as you can. And I think in B2B, we've kind of become obsessed with bottom of the funnel. If you have to reach the people who are requesting demos, and like if they don't request a demo, they're garbage.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's true.
No, and I mean, I think actually, it's funny that you have interpreted that 95 to 5 expression that way. To me, I think about it as the 5%, those we hit by covering search and review platforms. So when we're done there,
Yeah.
everything else is about defining who is our ICPs and personas and what is the message
Yeah.
we need to get in front of them.
Yeah.
I don't know of the 95 if it's those over here or those over here, but
Yes.
I know I need to be present amongst all of them. So because when
Yes.
we're in B2B, the marketing, there's budgets, and sometimes you don't have budgets, sometimes you have budgets, sometimes there's
Yes.
other projects that are important, and then there's
Yes.
times where you have time
Yes.
to take on a new project. So that's why I'm
Yes.
thinking we need to spend most of the budget on the 95 bucket,
Yes.
because once they then do switch on to being in market, then they need to remember our
Yes.
brand and then go
Yes.
type
Yes.
into
Yes.
Google search.
Yes. And I think people, it's not a static thing, right? Like it's not like you're not in market today and you're not going to be in market for the rest of your life. Like you might be not in market today, you might be in market tomorrow. Like it's like markets are constantly in flux. New buyers are coming in, buyers are leaving. It's not like, and I think the way I sort of sometimes feel people talk about it is like a very, oh, I'm, this bucket of people and this bucket. I'm like, no, it's like a dynamic fluid. People are moving across, up and down, all the way around. It's like Brownian motion, atoms moving at random. It's not like a fixed flow of people.
Yeah.
And I think it can sometimes be.
Something I don't like is the labeling of content as top funnel content or bottom funnel content.
You don't really control that. You can't really.
The conversation the two of us has is what convinces them to buy Dreamdata, but it has nothing to do specifically with Dreamdata. But it's a piece of content that reminded them that, oh, I actually needed to speak with them. But it's the no product pitch here or anything like that.
Yeah. It's just a subtle branding, and it's just like two people having a conversation. Yeah. And I think it's the 95. Sorry, the 95/5 can be used as an excuse sometimes, and that's what bothers me. I'm like you have marketing's job is not to just hand out flyers to people who are going to come to your pizza shop anyway. Like if I'm already going to a pizza shop and you're like, oh, here's a $5 coupon, I'm like, oh, great, and then I use that $5 coupon and marketing. It's like, look, I brought a new customer, and I'm like, well, that person was walking through the door anyway. So I think a lot of that's like hyper focus on uh demo, and like, hand raise, whatever you want to call it. Like that has led us away from, like, there's a bunch of people who are hanging around there. They're not sure they want to go to your pizza shop or somewhere. They're hungry, but they don't know what they want to eat. And it's your job to convince them to have pizza. So I think like that's the middle. Like, to me, that's like we're forgetting there's people who don't want to eat at all. There's people who are kind of hungry. That's a middle funnel. Like that's where I think we forget about that often.
Can I just get you to go a little bit deeper into
Pizza
how
shops.
the 95 is being misused as an excuse for marketers?
I think because if we can use it as an excuse to justify either our hyper focus on bottom of the funnel stuff, or either our uh, missing our numbers, or just like making it as a, how should I say this, LinkedIn fodder. So like it looks good on LinkedIn when you talk about 95.5. You look smart. You're like, oh, 95.5, 95. Like everybody kind of talks about. I don't think a lot of us really understand the dynamics of it, but we kind of throw it out there, and it becomes so popular lately that everybody's talking about, like, oh, 95.5, 95.5. I'm like, do you really like believe that? Do you really understand the dynamics of it? Or are you just like, it's become one of those rule of thumbs? And I think some people, I feel like, interpret it as don't even care about the 95, just focus on the 5%. And I think there's like this whole bucket of people who are in the middle, who are on the fence. And I'll dig up that article, if I'll share on LinkedIn and Twitter. But like those are the people, like that was a really good interpretation of the 95.5, and that like kind of triggered this thinking in my head of like, hey, like this is actually makes more sense, because it doesn't make sense to have this hard line between people who are going to buy, people who are never going to buy. It's a dynamic, fluid, moving, evolving situation.
Yeah, I completely agree. If we here to the last section here, move in a little bit. Now you're allowed to just guess and predict. So what do you think kind of the next 12 months looks like for YouTube ads for B2B companies? What are kind of what
my
are the
fear? My fear is
what should we be paying attention to?
My fear is that Google's just gonna like force us all to use Performance Max, and YouTube's gonna be one of the placements in Performance Max where you give it like all your assets and text and video and display, and it just like runs it everywhere, and you have zero control or zero visibility on what's going on. I think that's where it's slowly moving towards. Like they have dynamic search ads, they have a lot of these things now. That's my worst fear. And the reason I say that is because Performance Max usually either over indexes on branded search, where people are already searching for a brand. Why would you spend money on them? So like they either over index on that. Sorry?
Oh wow, it converted because
Yeah.
people
Like as an agency, we don't do, like, if we do branded search, we make sure we call that out as a separate thing. We don't take credit for it. We don't report on it. We don't do anything. Like that's nothing to do with us. That's people who we're going to convert anyway, that you shouldn't be spending money on. But like sometimes you have to, because if you're in a competitive space, yes, do branded search. If you're in a non-competitive space, there's like, we had one client that was spending like 60% of the budget on branded search. I'm like, why would you do that? Like that is such a waste of money. They turned it off. The organic picked up all that stuff. The organic went up. So yeah, easy win for. No, I'm joking. So I think media buying is media buying is, I think, slowly dying because of ML and like all these advancements. So I think marketers now have more time to focus on creative and strategy and all that stuff. But the bad thing is that it becomes a black box, and that's my worst fear. Is like in a black box, you don't know what the inputs and the outputs are.
No. What about how much? I almost hate talking about it, but AI, like AI and video and YouTube ads, do you think that will?
Yes.
The answer is yes, of course. But how will that play out?
I think we'll put It's scary because I saw this icon or something which takes like a video and then it uses AI to generate multiple variations of the same video. And it's scary how good it is.
Mm.
And I wanted to say we're going to put a premium on authentic human content,
Yeah.
but it's going to be increasingly harder. And I feel like it'll be increasingly harder to tell what is real and what is like AI generated. And
Yeah.
to be honest, that's a bit scary for me. But I think we might like the industrial revolution did. Like you had mass manufacturing, then you had this sub market of handcrafted products,
Yeah.
and handcrafted products had a higher premium on them. I think we're going to have this kind of a hand, like human made stuff that's going to have a premium, and AI generated, which is like a factory that you don't
Let's
really.
hope. Let's hope for that at
Let's hope.
least.
I hope that is at least that happens. Like I hope it's not a dystopian thing where we all AI generated avatars talking to each other.
Kamil, is there anything you haven't gotten across that you think should be said to people?
I think I said too many things. I think this was good.
We will
I would,
we'll write up a summary of this so people can go and get the best parts of it.
and
Um,
then subscribe to our newsletter. I think that's my only thing.
so who's the ideal customer profile for your agency 42? Who
Great
should
question. Anybody who's 10 to 80 million in revenue, has about 5 to 10 people in the marketing team. You need a hand with scaling up your B2B demand gen. You need a hand with RevOps. Get in touch with us. We have a wonderful team and we'll do amazing work. And if you're earlier stage, still happy to chat. We do work with some early stage companies as well. We are just launching a startup package as well. But if you are in that bucket and you have you have nailed down the sales motion, you are able to sell through founder led sales or some kind of sales team, and you need to layer on marketing. So that's sort of, we can help you with that.
any geographical limitations?
Zero geographical limitations. So we work with customers in Europe, Australia, US. I'm based in Canada, so yeah.
Yeah, you're up all night
Yeah.
sometimes.
And congratulations on expanding to the US yourself.
Yeah, I'm in the New York office today actually.
Amazing. Congratulations. Big
Kamil,
milestone.
thank you so much for spending the time with us. I at least learned a good bunch, and I need to find the time to set up a proper structure for the YouTube app, because I do think that it definitely has a place. For
Yes.
those of you who are listening, we would love if you would hit subscribe to Attributed, where you listen to this podcast. If you are not subscribing already, just search for Attributed and you'll find us. Everybody, thank you so much, in particular you, Kamil, for investing the time